Welcome to Democratic Television, a program of the Santa Clara County Democratic Party that brings interesting guests such as Mayor Pat Showalter, Mayor of Mountain View. We're going to have a discussion today about something that you'll be voting on, the Bay Restoration Act. And we'll talk about that, Pat, but I'd like to get to know you a little bit better. You're currently the Mayor of Mountain View, and you've been involved in this project for a long time.
That's right. I just became the mayor of Mountain View and at the beginning of January, and I sit as the West Bay City's representative on the San Francisco Restoration Authority's governing board.
Wow. Okay. Well, before we talk about all that, let's get to know you a little bit. Where did you grow up? Where'd you go to school? Things like that?
Well, I grew up in Baltimore, Maryland, and Richmond, Virginia, so around the Chesapeake Bay.
Oh.
And then I went to college at Mount Holyoke College in Western Massachusetts, where I majored in geology and history. And I decided that I was just fascinated by water.
Water.
And so I wanted to become an engineer. So I got into Berkeley. And I came out to Berkeley and I got a master's in civil engineering, specializing in hydrology. Water. And I kind of laugh and tell people that I've sort of worked to the surface. I started out as a geohydrologist, somebody who works with groundwater. And over the years, I've kind of worked up to the surface. And now I primarily work on policy issues. But I've gotten to work on groundwater and many years on the Bay. I've worked quite a bit on efforts related to restoring our creeks and bay for steelhead, which are native to the Bay Area.
Wow. Well, before that, when you were going to school, when you were a girl, did you have any thoughts that at some point you would be the mayor of a large city?
No. I did have a family that talked about politics incessantly.
Oh.
So that we religiously watched all the debates on TV as a family, and I think over the years I literally have missed one of the the big ones. And then when I was a kid, I had an aunt who worked on Capitol Hill.
Oh.
And every summer, from the time I was about 12 until I went away to college, she would have me come visit for a week and take me to work with her. So I got to just sort of visit Capitol Hill and do lots of sightseeing and see how things work. And I just thought it was great fun, but I didn't really think it was going to necessarily take hold. Yes. I was always real interested in science.
So did your aunt have this attitude that young people should see what's going on and walk the halls of power?
Yes. And she also really felt that women were very, very capable and could do lots of great things, as did my really my whole family. So that was always a big impetus that that women should do whatever they were interested in. And so I started out interested in science, and then real early in my career I worked on a project where we investigated what worked with groundwater management in the state of California and in the state of Texas. And as a young engineer, I'd kind of been taught that there was an engineering solution to everything. And if you just found that technical solution, sort of good things would follow. And in this study, what we found out that the areas that had successful groundwater management all had a really robust public education and outreach program. And that was really just kind of mind-bending for me. And it made me realize that if good environmental things are going to happen, we need to have technical people involved in the political process as well as political scientists. So I'm one of the technical people.
Well, and more than that. So you went to school, graduated from UC Berkeley. Did you then move down here to Mountain View?
Yeah, we lived in Fremont for a few years, and then we moved to Mountain View. So I've lived in Mountain View really most of my adult life, over 30 years.
And raised a family.
We have 2 children, Ben and Abby, and they're 28 and 30. And so they went through all the schools here, and of course I went through the schools too, doing all of the parent activities and being a Girl Scout leader and getting involved in the all sorts of community efforts.
Great. What made you want to run for the city council?
Well, I was on the Planning Commission for about 9 years.
Oh, okay.
In from the 90s to the early 2000s, and I just thought it was fascinating. And one of the things that I became really passionate about was affordable housing. And in this last election, it became clear that affordable housing had gotten to be an issue that many people cared about. So I felt like this was the time for me to get involved again.
Well, good move.
It worked.
So at the same time, your career is you're a scientist, you're an engineer, you've done those kinds of things. Tell me a little bit about work life.
Well, I work for the Santa Clara Valley Water District, which is the water management agency for Santa Clara County. We have really 3 missions. One is water supply, one is flood protection, and one is protecting our bays and creeks. And right now I work in the last few years, I've worked on the South Bay Salt Pond restoration effort, representing the water district and trying to move that program forward. You might have, I'm sure you've seen it, and I hope you visited it. There are a couple places that are really good to visit it. The Alviso County Park in San Jose, and in Mountain View Shoreline is a wonderful place to visit it. And then I also work on flood protection insurance. It's under the FEMA. FEMA has a flood insurance program, and if you live in a floodplain, you have to buy that insurance.
It's required.
It's required. And our communities are part of a program that do all sorts of things that reduce the flood risk, and we get points for that, and those points translate into discounts. So the work that the Water District does gets about a 10% discount for everybody on their flood insurance premiums in Santa Clara County.
Oh, I see. That's how it materializes.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. So so those are 2 programs I work on now, and I'm trying to balance that with my city council duties, and so far it's working pretty well, thanks to a lot of help from my family.
Well, it sounds like the perfect coming together of your public policy, your political science interests, and realizing that's how things get done.
Yeah, I'm really pleased that to be able to do this. I mean, I think that we all have sort of a career train that goes forward, and you're not really sure when you get on that train exactly where it's going to lead. But for me, serving on city council really has been a natural progression, and from being a government employee for so many years. I mean, I worked for the federal government for USGS,
yeah.
And now I work for the Santa Clara Valley Water District, and I worked for Actera on San Francisco Creek, running that watershed council,
which is an environmental organization.
That's right.
Local.
Yeah, local
on the ground.
Right. So I that was another. We worked with a lot of government. It was a good way to understand how sort of it works from the outside. So. So I'm really enjoying getting to put that experience to work, and boy, in addition to all that experience, there's just this incredible learning curve. I've been amazed at all the things that I've learned in the last year while I've been on council. It's been great.
Wow. Well, good for you. You sound like a great citizen. But we have a lot more to talk about. For instance, Chesapeake Bay growing up to San Francisco Bay. And I know, of course, San Francisco Bay was something that was not considered an important resource until later, maybe the 60s and 70s, people realized we have to do something. It's being overdeveloped, it's being filled in, and not good stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the story of the rise of the environmental movement in San Francisco Bay is really a great one. There were 3 women in Berkeley. They were the wives of professors, and they got wind of the Corps of Engineers' desire to literally fill in a large part of the bay so there would be more land for housing. And they said, no, kind of over our dead bodies. We're going to, this is a wonderful resource. It's wonderful habitat. It's got commercial value. We want to protect it. And they started Save the Bay, which is still going, and thank God they did.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
owe them a lot.
And I know there's more and more discussions about that legacy, and now it really is coming to fruition with this measure, the Bay Restoration Project. Why don't you describe this? It's a 9-county effort, as I understand.
That's right. That's right. The San Francisco Bay Restoration Authority was enabled about 10 years ago, and the whole reason for that is really to raise money for the Bay. I think people realize that the Bay is a wonderful resource. I mean, when you think about it, if somebody asks you where you live, you say you live in the Bay Area. I mean, San Francisco Bay is really the heart of that, and it's we enjoy it when we walk by the trails or we drive over it, or it's important from a commercial sense, and we have big ports. It's great for recreation. People sail on it and kayak on it, and so. And it's just a tremendous resource from a habitat point of view. For one, when you think of it from the air, it's one of the major stopping points on the Pacific Flyway. So the birds that migrate from all the way up and down the west coast of South America and North America go through here and use it as a stopping off place to refresh and get food, and then it's a great resource for fish. I know that we've all taken pleasure in many of the stories of species that are coming back that haven't been here for a long time. And in the last 20 years, we've seen some dreams of trails that encircle the bay really make huge progress.
Get fully connected and everything.
Yes.
That sounds great. We're going to take a little break right now. When we come back, I want to learn a lot more about this. So don't go away, and we'll be back soon.
Hello. My name is Cindy Chavez, and I have been active in the Democratic Party for many years. And the thing I would say to all of you who are watching this is sometimes the problems seem bigger than we can handle. But if you get involved, we can make great change. If you'd like to get involved with the Democratic Party, call 408-445-9500. If you're interested in some of the big issues of the day and you want to get more information, go to the website at sccdp.org. Don't let another day go by just wishing you could do something. Take action. Call. Thank you.
Welcome back to Democratic Television and our guest, Mountain View Mayor Pat Showalter. Pat, thanks again for being on our show, and we're having a great conversation about the Bay Restoration Fund that will be on the June 7th ballot, I believe. It's an unusual measure because it's not something that's just going to happen in one county. It actually encompasses all the Bay counties. How did that come to happen? How did the authority get given to a portion of the state or a region?
Well, there was actually state legislation to do that, and it was carried by Mountain View's own Sally Lieber. And the idea is to provide funding that can be used locally just for San Francisco Bay restoration. As you know, in the state, we have a lot of interest in restoring the Bay Delta, and some people feel like too much of that money goes into the Delta. But the truth is, both facilities need are very, very important and need a lot of work. But San Francisco Bay is ours, and that's what this ballot measure is about. It's to raise money to have a very healthy local match to restore wetlands. And wetlands are so important because they provide natural filtration. They filter the water, so making the bay water cleaner. They're wonderful habitat. They really serve as kind of nursery grounds for many species. And there's several endangered species that live there, like the salt marsh harvest mice. And another thing that's really significant about marsh is that it functions as Mother Nature's sponge. And when there's floods, they absorb a tremendous amount of water and also a lot of wave action, protecting the land that's behind it. And then, of course, another reason why this is important is because it will help fund public access to the shoreline so we can all enjoy it.
I understand that from some of the recent devastating hurricanes, one of the reasons why their effect was exacerbated was because their marshlands and baylands weren't preserved. They had been developed, taken out essentially.
That's right, and we really feel like there's kind of a window of the next 15, 20 years in San Francisco Bay for us to make a tremendous difference here. During the gold rush, there were more than 350,000 acres of wetlands. Now there's about 35,000 acres.
Oh my God.
And scientists have estimated that in order to have a healthy ecosystem, we need to have about 100,000 acres. So we're really working hard to get that difference restored. You probably remember that we used to have a lot of salt production around San Francisco Bay.
Sure.
That's really what happened to most of our wetlands, or many of our wetlands. They were filled in and they were diked off for salt protection. So we're buying or have bought much of that land back from the salt protection and are restoring it to marshes.
Oh.
So it's a huge opportunity, and when you think about climate change impacts, we need to literally beat the race of sea level rise. If we can get these marshes well established, they'll keep up naturally. They'll grow slowly with sea level rise. But if we can't get them well established, then they'll be drowned, and they won't be able to function to provide the protection that they can if they're good and strong. So there's really a time crunch for this.
I know other cities around the world are considering things like dikes and damming efforts and not using the natural habitat restoration efforts. Would that be an alternative if we didn't pass a measure like this, or we didn't deal with our marshes?
Yes, and I think
there was disdain in your tone when you said that, and I think that's important to hear.
There are certain places where we'll probably have to do that anyway, because there's the energy action is really too strong to build marshes. But there's a lot of the Bay Area that it's beautifully suited to it. So if we can do that, then we can improve the habitat and we can provide the protection. There'll also be a need for levees too, but they won't need to be nearly as extensive. And I mean, the reason I guess that you hear a little disdain in my voice is because, levees, although they are good for trails, they really don't have much habitat value. And we have this beautiful bay, and we'd really like to have it be the home not just for us, but for lots of fish and birds and all the other wildlife that's naturally occurring there. So this is an opportunity to do multiple good things.
Now, you raised a point earlier that I'm curious about. There's San Francisco Bay, then there's the Delta. It sounds to me like all of that area could use the kind of potential restoration that this envisions.
Absolutely. But this parcel tax measure is about restoring San Francisco Bay, our bay, around the 9 counties. let's see, there Contra Costa, Alameda, ours, Santa Clara, which is really, I think, in a lot of ways the most important because we have the most population and we have a huge swath of wetlands that can be restored. Then San Mateo, San Francisco, Marin, Solano, Sonoma, and Napa. Did I get them all? I think I got them all.
Did you say Alameda?
I did.
Well, then I think you got it all.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a lot of land, and especially a lot of area. I guess that's the problem, is there is a lot of land that should be marshland. And that's what we're going to try to be working on. Now, I've heard that companies are stepping up to the plate. Some of the larger companies that are actually physically situated in potential floodplains, and that their involvement is really very self-serving, that they just want to protect themselves. And so we hear the argument, why don't they fund something like that? They have the funds.
Well, the Bay really belongs to all of us, and we all recreate near it, and we enjoy driving over it on the bridges, and it belongs to all of us. So I think that the need for this parcel tax is really greater than would just be just to protect a few companies. It's really for all of us. And the other thing I think that's important is this parcel tax measure is going to, over the course of the 20 years, is expected to raise $500 million. That is a lot of money, but that's not enough to pay for all the restoration and flood protection that's needed here. What it will do, however, is provide a very healthy local match for us to leverage to get money from the federal government. There's lots of grants, the state government, and many foundations, which is a way that some of the big high-tech companies really provide money. So this is not the this will not cover the whole price tag, but it is a tremendous step in the right direction. And the other thing that's important about it is we'll control it. It won't be controlled by somebody outside of our area. It'll be controlled by us, and that's important.
Those are very good points. Do you expect that the public will come to understand and appreciate more the value of the restoration, and want to come out and see it, come to Palo Alto or Mountain View Baylands or El Viso or the Don Edwards National Refuge Area? And I know they exist all around the Bay, those kinds of areas.
Well, I hope so. Some polls have been done, and it does poll fairly well. People in the Bay Area really do value our environment. We love our parks and we love the Bay, and this is also a very modest tax. It's only $12 a parcel per year, or that's just $1 a month. And so I think most people feel like that's something, they're very happy to contribute. At least I hope that's what we'll find out.
You get a lot of value for that dollar a month.
You get a lot of value, right.
Are there going to be educational efforts set up to have people go to their various baylands and marshlands to take a look at it between now and when the election happens, just to demonstrate what is out there?
I understand that there are going to be a number of tours that are set up by Save the Bay to get people out into the wetlands to appreciate why they're valuable. And there is a lot of information available on the Restoration Authority's website, sfrestore.org. And so yes, I think there's going to be a tremendous education opportunity.
And are you going to be working? You're the mayor of Mountain View. You're also on the steering committee of this effort. Are you working with other communities to get them to step up, to appreciate, to lend their support?
Well, I'm going to be working to get the word out, to get the information out about how important this is, because there's a very short time frame here, so we really do need to, to get moving. So that's one of the reasons I really appreciate your inviting me here this morning.
I wonder who would oppose something like this. Perhaps groups that are anti-growth, that just don't like any reference to taxes regardless of the public good that comes out of them. Doesn't sound like there's going to be a lot of organized opposition. Let's hope.
Well, the 2/3 majority that's required is a high bar.
That is,
So
yeah.
it's important that people come out, and it's always important that people come out and vote.
Well, I'd like to underscore that point. We have about 2 minutes left, Pat. If people wanted to get more involved, to learn more about the Bay restoration effort or the Bay, is there a website that you could recommend?
Yeah, I think the San Francisco Bay Restoration Authority's website is sfrestore.org, and you also could learn a lot by going to the Save the Bay website, and if you haven't had a chance to pick up a copy of Bay Nature, that's a wonderful resource for learning about the Bay. And also there's the South Bay Salt Pond Restoration website, so you could Google that and find it. Yeah, there's lots of sources of information.
Is the effort asking for people to step up and volunteer?
I'm sure they are. I haven't heard that yet, but I'm sure they are.
Well, I think, as you say, a 2/3 vote under any circumstances is difficult. The fact that it polls well is a very good sign. Then the effort becomes, can we get those supporters to get to the polls or vote by mail, their support for this?
That's right. Yeah, we need people to help with the campaign and to talk to their neighbors about why they appreciate the Bay and why they feel like this restoration is important. Again, it will help clean the Bay, improve water quality, provide better habitat.
Yeah.
And flood protection and public access.
Great. Well, if we can get you in front of every voter, I know we'll probably get closer to 100%. Thank you very much, Pat.
Thank you, Steve.
Thanks for watching Democratic Television. Give us a call at 408-445-9500 or visit our website, sccdem.org. See you later.